You're listening to What It's Like with Luce, a podcast highlighting ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm your host Lucy Norris, and on today's episode I'm chatting with one of Ireland's biggest fashion, travel and lifestyle bloggers. Born and raised in Limerick, it was clear from a very young age that this guest had a knack for spotting style. Spending time in the modelling industry as a teenager and editing a magazine at college, it was a move to New York for a job at Tourism Ireland that propelled her into the social media world. Sharing her outfits on her lunch break soon grew into a fully fledged influencing career, and when she returned home to Ireland, it was evident big changes were coming her way. Sitting shoulder to shoulder with the likes of Kris Jenner at the Victoria's Secret fashion show, jet-setting off to places like the Maldives and walking the red carpet at the Venice Film Festival are just some of the crazy experiences she has encountered. Sharing her journey thus far, here's what it's like to be Louise Cooney. Before we get stuck into the episode, I just wanted to say that if there is a drop in sound quality throughout, I'm very sorry, but in respect of social distancing, I've had to record episodes remotely. In this challenging time, we're all trying our best, so I really hope everyone is staying safe and that you enjoy the episode. I think starting off with everything, it would be really great to go back and chat a little bit about what it was like for you growing up in Limerick and where your, I don't want to say passion for fashion, that's so cliche, but your interest in the fashion industry really started.
So I grew up in Limerick, and I suppose my kind of love for fashion, it was probably always in my life. My mom actually studied dress design, so she used to kind of make, say our communion dress, and she made her wedding dress and stuff like that. She would make us kind of personalised jackets, and we always got to kind of have a say in what we wore. And she'd have great fun kind of dressing us up. So it was always, from when I was a small child, a kind of a part of my life. And I remember when I was old enough to pick my own clothes, and we started dressing differently, me and my sisters. Even that was a little part of the kind of the fashion journey. And then I went to school, and when I was in school, it was always uniforms, but kind of like, what twist could you put on the uniform? And I remember when I was in sixth year, like my final year in school, we had a blazer that used to be a part of the uniform years ago, years and years ago, probably like in the 80s, and nobody wore it anymore. It was all kind of the bomber jackets that people wore.
Yeah.
And I started wearing it because blazers were very much back in. It was 2010. And I started wearing it just because I liked the look of it, and I couldn't get given out to for it because technically it was a part of the uniform. And like looking back, and like, it's funny, like, because I'm like, who would I think I was, like being the only one wearing this blazer. And then people started popping up wearing them. They were like, no, this actually is a nice blazer, it had a lovely little gold crest on it. It was maroon and really structured. It looked like really kind of like expensive,
Yeah.
So that's kind of my school story with fashion. And I definitely wanted to do fashion in college, but in Ireland, definitely 10 years ago, it was very limiting what you could do. So I just thought I'll do something that may, lead me down that road, or kind of lead me into a creative field anyway. So I did vacations at college in DCU, and I suppose one of the main reasons I chose that college was because there was a style society. And I just kind of thought, there's a magazine there, there's a fashion magazine there, that would be my dream, just to get involved in it. And then in my final year, I was actually the editor. So it just kind of shows you, like, when you really have an interest for something. Like, I didn't really ever think that would be possible. Like, at the time that I could actually be the editor of the college magazine, like, that was such a big deal to me when I was in school.
Yeah.
So when you're interested in something and you work hard at it, things can happen. So I suppose that's kind of also in college. Sorry, I should have said that I used to model. So that was great. Like, I loved it. It was long hours, and it was hard work, and it definitely gave me a thick skin. But I loved just being behind the scenes, and the whole, like, it definitely was not glamorous at times. We were not modelling clothes that I would wear literally, I'd say 85% of the time. But it was still really fun and glam, and like, I got to see how everything ran, and I was kind of on the back end, which was exciting for me.
Yeah, I think that's really funny about school. It reminds me so much of Gossip Girl, the way you switched up your outfits and everything. And I when I was doing my research, I saw you did a bit of modeling. Which, do you think that helped you a lot in the influencer industry?
Yeah, I don't think I ever would have had the balls, gonna say balls.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
balls to like take pictures of myself or like post pictures of myself if it wasn't for the modeling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I don't know, I definitely developed a thick skin because like when you're modeling, you're constantly under scrutiny. You know, you're changing your clothes with everyone, you're being judged by your size and stuff like that. And I think if it wasn't for having that little bit of thick skin, I don't know if I ever would have got to the stage where I am now, because you just have to be really like comfortable with yourself, you know, for what you are, you know. And I really am grateful for that side of modeling. And learning how to wear clothes and how to make things look good, and you know, obviously posing and stuff too. I'm still awkward, but you know, I definitely learned a few things.
Well, you would never know you were awkward, you know, from your pictures. But so after DCU, you moved to New York to start working over there. Is that right?
So after DCU, I went straight into a marketing master's in DIT.
Okay.
And then from there, I got a job with Tourism Ireland on their graduate program, which was 2 years long. The first year was in New York, and the second year was in Dublin. And that's kind of when I started my blog. It was just at the end of my master's when I didn't have fashion anymore in my life. And then when I moved to New York and I was working in Tourism Ireland, as much as I loved it, like it wasn't my passion, you know, and I missed having that in my life. So I just started it for fun, and I used to work on it before work, after work, on my lunch, you know. I was kind of working on it all the time, and just totally as a hobby, just as something that I enjoy. And I never thought it would become a career. I thought maybe it would help me get a job somewhere, you know. That's kind of what I thought. But that's not why I did it, you know. I did it because I enjoyed it, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to keep it up this long if it wasn't something I really loved. Yeah, so then I moved back to Ireland after the year, and at that stage, my blog was growing. Like, I only had about 5,000 followers, but there wasn't that many people doing it at the time. So, and it was very much about the blog. It was about the website, and I would do like fashion posts and stuff like that. And then after I moved home a couple of months later, I got my first paid job, which was exciting. And that kind of led into a whole new phase of me managing work and managing me actually getting paid to do this other thing. And over the next year and a half, it grew to a stage where I was making more money from my blogs than I was from being in work. And I had to keep taking days off for these amazing kind of opportunities I was getting to go on trips and to go to events and to work at events. And I literally was out of holiday days. And I remember I was offered to go on a trip with Emirates to Seychelles. And it was that day I was like, right, I'm going to have to make a decision. Either I do this and see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, like I had savings in case something went wrong. I never like fancied the idea of working for myself though, so that was another kind of thing to consider. But I was like, look, who knows how long it's going to be for? I'm going to get to travel. I'm going to get these really cool experiences. I'm not going to regret it if it doesn't work out. You know, if I don't like it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my thinking. I gave in my notice, and I've been doing that since. But I'm still learning like how to work for myself. I'm like, you know, trying to figure out being by myself and working by myself, and then I've had, you know, different people working for me at different times. It's a weird one. There's no direct road, because, you know, everyone who does it differently, and it also isn't a career that's been around very long.
Yeah, so, for sure. I think that's...
you're kind of paving the way, you're paving your own path, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's sometimes where the fascination surrounds it. It's that every person that does it differently, and there's no traditional roadmap, I guess, which we're also used to, just following a set of rules, that it's so amazing to us to watch, you know, people carve their own careers and make something from nothing. And I know you probably get this question so much, so I feel bad for even asking it, but I'm just curious to know, in your experience, what do you think it was that made you grow that base of followers? Do you think you did anything in particular, or was it just your content and organic growth over time, or what's your take on that?
Oh God, I don't know. I think for me it was probably a little bit of timing at the start, and I think that people like my style, like the way I style outfits.
Yeah.
It was very much about that at the start. And then I've kind of evolved, like with the way that the industry has evolved. I've changed to more video over blog content. People prefer to watch than read now, I've found. And I feel like people know my personality more now. And like I get messages from people and they're like, I love following you. And I suppose like even for me, it's like not rewarding just to be sharing the fashion side of things. So I kind of started sharing more of my personality and more of my life. And like I find that people are following me for a little bit of everything now, like lifestyle. God, even during quarantine, started sharing like recipes and workouts and all these different things that I haven't done before. So like fashion is always going to be the basis of my blog, and I think that's why probably a lot of people follow me. But now I think there's other reasons creeping in there. I don't know. Like I feel like I'm on a journey with my blog. I'm very open about the fact that, you know, like I suppose I wasn't always as confident. You can even see that when you look back. And I'm open about my struggles. I'm open about being single, moving country. There's a lot of different reasons, I suppose, why people would be able to connect to me, and I think that's probably why.
It looks, I always think it looks like from the outside that someone gets really big really quickly, but obviously there's so much groundwork that goes in behind it, you know, and you build it in your own time. But you started going to things like the Victoria's Secret fashion show and huge events like that. And obviously you have 200K followers now, I think. Did you ever struggle with that initial, I don't know, I guess fame is the right word, you know, you kind of became a famous internet personality. So did you ever struggle with that transition from being someone that was just doing this because they love fashion and they wanted to share their tips and tricks to being someone that people watched all the time and were very invested in?
I wouldn't say I struggled with it. At the start, it was a bit weird. Like, if someone came up to me, I was like, oh my god, this is bizarre, but it was so cool. And now, like, it's kind of nice to meet people I kind of like seeing what they're about and where they're from and that kind of thing. But I naturally, like, you know, I'm kind of, I suppose, a little bit more, I don't know, it's weird to say, because I wouldn't say I'm shy. I'm like an introvert extrovert. Like, me being as comfortable as I am talking online is taking me a lot of time and practice.
Yeah.
So then when I meet people, I'm like, oh my god, you know, I don't know if I would be as good in front of a crowd of 100 people or however many people. Like, to think the amount of people who are watching my story the other day, if I knew there were that many people there, I probably would be a little bit different to me, but I can't really see them all the time and I don't think about it all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I suppose it's a weird one, like, because as much as you say the words like fame or celebrity or, you know, that kind of thing, I don't, like, for the most part, it's me on my own at home in my comfort zone, you know?
Yeah.
It's very different, like the online world is so different.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting because while we as the consumer notice how many people are watching you, I guess to you it's just, I don't know, your camera or your keyboard or whatever. So it probably still feels pretty personal to you rather than, you know, because technically you would be standing in a stadium filled with 200,000 people, which is kind of crazy when you think about it like that.
Yeah, it is.
And have you ever encountered any difficulties in terms of, say, privacy? Because I know with online personalities, I feel like people feel they have the right to know everything about you because it's almost this notion that, well, you put yourself out there, so and we supported you for doing that, so now you have to give us what we want, kind of thing. Do you ever encounter any difficulties with sharing too much, and how have you established the line between keeping some of your life to yourself?
I think I'm still learning that. Like, for me, I'm very open and I'm very honest, so I don't really mind. Like, I actually rather just sometimes be upfront with my followers because I almost feel like I'm keeping something. It's so weird. It's probably the wrong way to be. You know, I'm kind of working on, I don't need to explain myself to everybody all the time because then I carry guilt sometimes for people's misunderstandings of me and feel like I have to explain myself. But at the end of the day, like, you know, there is a lot of people there and you do have to keep some of yourself for yourself. And like, yeah, I trust kind of what I'm doing and I just try and do like, I try and be like a good person all the time, do you know what I mean? But sometimes people online can pick you up wrong, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you know, you are a person as well at the end of the day, so you're always going to have your own opinions. You can't always be, I think as well, part of the reason why you've done so well is because you've been yourself. And I think it's very obvious that people that have cultivated this character to be extremely marketable to the generic audience, you know. Um, so I guess from day one, did you know, you know, you were going to go on and just be completely yourself, or have you ever come across anything that's made you felt a bit conflicted to maybe, you know, change something about yourself to be a marketable person online so that you can, I don't say so that you can get brand deals, that sounds really aggressive, but do you know what I mean? Ever been in the situation where you felt like you needed to change something in order to make money off of something, I guess, because at the end of the day you also need to survive, you know?
Yeah, there was just one other thing I wanted to say, I forgot, about the, like, privacy and stuff. So for me, the border comes in as well, like when it's like my family or my friends who don't want to be on.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm mindful of. But in relation to like having to change, have I felt like I've had to change myself online? I think, yeah, like in the earlier days when I was first meeting other bloggers and going on trips, and like it would be, you know, there'd be a lot of pressure there because there'd be a lot of people watching, and you're like, oh, what do I look like, or, you know, how am I acting, you know, this kind of thing, because people judge you so much from what they see online.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first started talking to camera, like, people would say, oh, you're so quiet, you're like, is she really like that, or, you know, I hear things back, like, I don't know. So I was just trying to be more confident, trying to be like the other bloggers and that kind of thing, and to be more like outgoing and loud on camera.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not really the way I am. And now I've just kind of, over time with practice, learned to be myself on camera, and I think that has stood to me, you know what I mean? Like, because I feel like I've never really pretended or tried to be something I'm not.
And so, right before quarantine, which was so unfortunate for you, but you just moved to New York, you made that decision to pack up and go back there. What motivated that decision, and what was the experience like?
I always wanted to go back after I lived there 5 years ago. I wasn't done when I left. Like, I knew in my heart it wasn't. And it was kind of like a decision I was making for a while, because obviously I have a dog here and stuff like that. And my work, you know, it's just like it was a risk. Yeah. But I just really felt like I needed a change. I felt like almost bored of Ireland. I just needed a change, you know?
Yeah.
I needed a change of scenery, I needed a change of work, I needed a change of people. Not necessarily a change of people, but I wanted to meet more people, you know?
Yeah.
So all of those things. And I've never really, like, felt like homebody. I felt like, you know, I could kind of go anywhere and I'd be okay, I'd be independent. But I suppose since I moved, I've learned so much. I've learned that I am actually more of a homebody than I thought, and I actually learned to appreciate home, which is really nice, you know. Yeah. But I am, like, at the same time, really, really, like, excited to get back to New York, and I still have hope that it's going to be so, like, a day the year that I want it to be. Like, I think for it to be the year I want it to be, it's not necessarily about being there for 365 days. It's about being there with the right energy and, you know, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's just timing, and yeah, I feel like after a quarantine I'll be going back with a whole new lease of life for the city and, you know, energy, and I feel like I've learned so much about myself and about, you know, what I need over there to be happy and all that kind of stuff.
So within that experience, I guess you'd pretty much conquered Ireland. You know, you're definitely one of Ireland's biggest bloggers before you left. What was the experience like having to, I guess, I don't know what the situation was for you when you went over, whether you'd kind of established connections before you went, but how was it starting over again, in a sense?
Like, I was really excited about that. Like, that, I just felt like, I don't know, anything could have happened in Ireland. I was just, not that I wasn't appreciative, I always was, but I needed some excitement. I needed a little bit of more of a challenge or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just starting completely from scratch. I had an agency that didn't really work out, so I had to find a new agency. I was constantly meeting people, explaining who I was. Like, none of them had a clue, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which was different. Like, in Ireland, everyone, like, most people I would meet would have heard of me because there's not that many influencers in Ireland, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So it's very different, and you kind of have to learn like what are you actually blogging about? What are your strengths? Why would somebody work with you over like an American blogger? Or not, not that you have to oversell, but you kind of have to know these things when you're meeting people. And then I was connecting with other bloggers in the industry and stuff. It was a whole different challenge. Very, very like tiring, and you need a lot of energy for it. But it's just one of those things that takes time. It took me years in Ireland to get to the stage I was at when I left, you know?
Yeah. I could be wrong in saying this, but I don't really see a lot of people that started out as bloggers continuing to blog today. You know, they've shifted their platforms completely over to video or completely just on Instagram, but you still blog quite a bit. So what's been the motivation behind keeping up the writing side of things, and are you worried that it is going to completely die out, the blogging side of things?
So I've kind of stopped. When did I stop? Probably like February or March. I kind of was like, I'm not really getting the click-throughs that I used to get. I want to put my energy elsewhere. So I haven't like as much in writing, but I used to love the writing part of my blog, like actually writing down thoughts and stuff. And I still do write, like personally, I write for myself. But now if I kind of get an idea that would have been a blog post, I'll probably just do a video on it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good, like, because I've gotten more comfortable, talking on camera, but I still prefer the writing side to recording. Yeah, that's kind of why I kept it up, and also I think it's useful for people that, like when I did shopping posts, I think it helps people, and especially then when I moved to New York, I get a lot of the same questions about where should I stay, where do I fly into, where should I eat, all this kind of stuff. So I started doing New York, like a New York series. I suppose like when I'm thinking of content, it's like, how can I help people, and how can I do this and help them? Because that's what you want your blog to be at the end of the day, is useful for people. So I suppose my blog has been over the last while useful. So
yeah, definitely. And do you have a pinch me moment throughout your career? Maybe it was a brand deal that you secured, a trip, meeting someone, I don't know, a time where you really had to sit back and kind of be like, oh my God, this is actually happening,
there's been a few. There's been I feel like a good few. When I went to the Victoria's Secret fashion show, that was like the most insane experience
I'd say.
of my life. That was just like, it was so cool, and like the whole thing like was amazing. Like all the celebrities that were there, and the glamour and musicians, and all the bloggers that were there, and the venue, like the clothes. We were staying in the plaza. It was just, I got to bring my best friend with me. It was like insane. There's been I feel like when these really good things happen, like these pinching moments, I'm also like, oh my God, you need to work really hard. Like you need to really like prove that you're kind of worthy of being here. I remember when I went to the Maldives, I was like, oh my God, am I ever going to be back here in my life? This was just so beyond like anything, that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Kind of like imposter syndrome a little bit. I went to the Venice Film Festival last year. That was amazing. I just try and take everything in, like, even when they're really like pinching moments, try and just like, take mental images, and obviously I'm vlogging and taking actual pictures anyway.
Yeah.
But and then I think when I got my visa, that for me, like, even though that wasn't necessarily a job or like that was because of my work, and then moving to New York and getting my own apartment and sitting there by myself and setting it up by myself, like that whole time was so pinch me for me. I was like, how have I done this?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a pretty incredible achievement, outside of all the blogging and that kind of world, just a personal achievement to have put yourself in a position where you can take yourself to live where you dreamed of living in the world. That's kind of what all of us hope to do at some point. So yeah, big congrats on that. I guess the other side of it is public opinion and things like that. And you spoke a little bit about imposter syndrome there. Also, I think it's really amazing that sometimes, maybe this is just what I'm seeing, I don't know, but there still seems to be that skepticism, I don't know if that's the right word, but perhaps negativity towards influencer industry, influencer marketing, and people still slightly not rolling their eyes at it, but not fully accepting it yet, when it is also the job that most children say they want to do when they finish school. So why do you think there is still that conflict where people just won't accept that it is, a viable profession, you guys work really hard, and people still have that thing of, oh, but it's just so easy? Why do you still think that is around in 2020?
I think it's maybe people who don't fully understand what we do. And then there's like different types of influencers that people, and not that anyone works any hard, well, I don't know, like I'm sure there are people who work harder than others, but like, it's funny to think that coming out of college, like I have 3 degrees and I'm put in the same bracket as like a Love Island contestant who who's promoting, I don't know what to promote, like, obviously they're all different as well. I'm not categorizing them all as one, but
Yeah.
I would be in the same bracket as somebody who promotes skinny tea, and we're all influencers.
Yeah.
So it depends on what influencers you're following, what influencers you've heard of. Like we are, doing similar things, but we're not all the same, or we can't all be painted with the same brush because we're all very different,
Yeah.
So I think there are and there was probably more a couple of years ago. I think over time, the good ones and people who are putting hard work into creating the content and being truthful and being helpful for their audience, I think that's kind of who survives the longest in this industry. But I don't know, like I even over the last couple of years, I feel like we've had to prove ourselves so much.
Yeah.
And I think there's, in the Irish industry anyway, bloggers have done a lot of good. Like if you were to compare it to any other industry, I think it's incredible what some bloggers have done. Look at what like Rosanna Purcell is doing for her body positivity. Look at Rosie Conley raised 300 grand for Crumner and Temple Street. I'm trying to think, there's so many people doing so many amazing things that definitely deserves credit as well. And I do think, that the people who follow us and support us see that, but
yeah, definitely. Yeah. I just think it's so interesting. So, when you hear different opinions, like negative opinions towards blogging and that kind of industry, when the same people that will comment about it will sit on Instagram all night watching people's stories, so it's just all a bit contradictory. I was just curious to know what your take was on that. But leading on from that a little bit, you have touched on it a bit, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but I guess I'd be interested to know how you deal with maybe that worry of staying relevant, and then within that, what are your top tips for growing a personal brand?
So when it comes to staying relevant, I try and just keep up with trends, and I look online for inspiration, like what photos am I liking to see, and what videos am I enjoying, what am I feeling like right now in my life, because at the end of the day, to stay relevant, all you have to do is be honest, because most of your feelings, somebody else in the world somewhere is feeling them. I try and think of like seasons and what are people shopping for and what are people looking for advice on. So that's kind of how I would try and stay relevant. And when it comes to tips for growing a personal brand, I think you have to really understand yourself, know your strengths, know what you stand for, and be careful about what other things you associate yourself with, and how, I don't know, I think whatever your personal brand is, you have to be comfortable with that and share what's appropriate for that. So for me, I'm just being myself, so I'm lucky that I don't really have to try too hard because it's just me. But yeah, that's one of my tips. Be true to yourself and talk about things that you care about, and provide value for people.
What would you love to see happen to your career in the future? Do you have an ultimate end goal, or do you have something that you're always working towards? Does it change all the time?
I I don't know right now. Like, I'm trying to figure that out. I don't think anyone knows, but I'd be open to doing more like design work, like to be more hands-on in promoting things that I've had an input in. Yeah, I'd love to do some fashion stuff. So that would be like, I suppose, maybe a short-term goal, like hopefully in the next year or two, or something like that. And then long-term, I don't really know yet. I don't even know if I'll do this forever. I just want to do it as long as I'm like inspired by it and as long as I'm enjoying it.
Do you know what you would do if, say, it all vanished tomorrow?
I don't really know. Like, I know I could go into something in marketing, sales, PR, and I also know like I care a lot about different causes. So maybe I would be more fulfilled doing something like that, like more like non-profit, or to move away from this. I don't know. Like, I really don't know. For me, it's like at the end of the day, you just want your work to be like fulfilling. Everyone does.
Yeah, so, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we got to figure out New York first. So for right now, we gotta, we gotta keep doing what we're doing and hopefully making some money. And then I don't know, figure it out down the line. What we'll do in the long term. I feel really lucky actually now that I'm in a place where I have this really big platform. So anything I feel really passionate about, I can actually do something about. You know what I mean? Like, people will listen and that kind of thing. That's good. I'm in a fortunate position now in that sense.
Yeah, that must be kind of cool to know that, you can use all of the hard work that you've done to build up your platform, you can now use to do some really impactful, good things. I know you donate or raise money for Pieta House, is that right?
Yeah, €90,000.
Incredible. But if you had to pick one pro and one con of being in the social media world, a blogger and influencer, what would they be?
The pro is probably connecting with people, and I have this whole other group of, I really realized this recently, sometimes I'll go to my stories before I'll go to my family or my friends, because I actually get reassurance from people I don't know, which is really nice. It's like a whole group of friends that I haven't met, so I love that side of it. I love connecting with people, and I love being able to share things with people, and the con would be that you have to be switched on all the time, and it can be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I can only imagine, most of us always have days, where you can't be bothered to talk to anyone, let alone make sure you go on your stories and interact with people. So also, if you had to say what your personal definition of success is, do you have one?
Being successful to me probably means working hard, having a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment in what you do, helping other people as well, and providing inspiration for people. I love that. Because I just love feeling inspired, so I love sharing that when I feel it. And having a good balance of work and life, having a person and having a good kind of flow of work as well. That would be success to me. But I also don't think you've reached that and then you're oh, here we go, this is it. I think as soon as you reach that, then you're probably looking to change something else. So it's a constant balance.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it's what you touched on, that sense of fulfillment is so hard to find, because as just a generation, I don't know if it's because of tech or what, but there's always something that you want more. Once you reach that point, then you're on to the next point.
Yeah, and then it's it's really just trying to get the balance right of doing things you care about and make you feel inspired and fulfilled, and then things that are going to pay the bills. And sometimes they go hand in hand, but it is hard to get the balance right, and that's just life.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you don't feel fulfilled, that's when you make the most powerful, impactful changes in your life that wouldn't happen otherwise. So it's not all bad, even if you're not totally happy, or maybe you feel like you're really not successful right now. That just means you need to sit down and really kind of think and reevaluate what you want and how you're going to get there, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And then my last question for you, and I'll let you get on with your afternoon. If I put your 10-year-old self in front of you today, having been through everything you've been through, both career-wise and then just in life in general too, what's the biggest piece of advice you'd give your 10-year-old self moving forward in life?
I would say keep working really hard and don't be so hard on yourself. Believe in yourself more. That's kind of what I would tell myself.
Thank you so much for chatting with me today. I really appreciate it, and it's been so interesting picking your brains about your career and your industry. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. It was fun.
Thank you so much for listening, and as always, please rate, share, and leave a comment if you like what you hear. And don't forget to follow @WhatIt'sLikePod on Instagram and Facebook. For more information on Louise, visit the link to her blog, YouTube, and social channels in the show notes. I'll be back on Thursday with more inspiring stories, but for now, this has been What It's Like with Luce.